right. This is the Beyond the Court podcast. Here talking with thought leaders in sports. I'm Kyle Yates from the pro pickleball world. Tonight we got an awesome guest all the way from Germany. My first introduction with this man, I got to watch his awesome TED Talk. It was posted a few months ago. Most of his stuff is in German, but it'll be great to pick his brain. We've got Adrian Rouzbeh, who's a MMA coach, entrepreneur, and best-selling author. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Did I pronounce the name okay?
Yeah, it was great. I like it.
You got it. All right. Well, like I said, I watched your TED Talk, so I'm already a big fan. Most of your other stuff I don't understand, but I loved listening to just your whole philosophy on learning in general, and coming from sports, especially in the pickleball world. I like to kind of see all the similarities with all these other sports and all these other, like I said, thought leaders, and just kind of get their insight into kind of how their brain works and their sports. And obviously MMA, we had an MMA person on last time, and I don't fight. It looks interesting. I don't like getting punched. I'll stick with the non-contact sports, but I loved your whole talk about the learning, about your PHS system. And so we'll get into that. But for all the listeners online who aren't familiar with you, please share a little bit of background with you, some of your early foundational influences, just kind of how you got into your work and what you do.
So first of all, thanks for having me. Happy to get to know you and talk to you about whatever we talk about today. So about me, I'm Adrien. I'm mostly helping people when it comes to mental health and mindset stuff, like coaching and therapeutic work. But I combine work on a mental, physical, and spiritual field. So on a mental field, I do coachings in like interpersonal dynamics, psychology, human behavior, especially trauma work and stuff. On the physical field, I do like fighting, martial arts, and everything that is important for body work. Also, when it comes to mindset stuff. And on the spiritual dimension, I work with psychedelics and guide people through psychedelic ceremonies. So I combine all of that. So mind, body, and spirit, as we maybe all know, they all should be some way connected. So what I'm doing for more than 10 years now is to coach people with my experience that I got from those three fields. So I started to get my experiences after I was a little bit mixed up from the school system in Germany and everything. I felt like I'm missing out of life, as you maybe mentioned, as you maybe could learn in my TED Talk. So I was missing life, and I wanted to catch up and be part of something and not miss everything. Like have relationships, have money, have business, have better whatever social status. So I picked my own way of searching and getting knowledge through mentors, through the internet, through the world, and through all the information that could be there to be a better man, more successful man. So you still here? Yeah, okay, good. So yeah, what happens then is I started with martial arts, I started with fighting, and then I started to have a system-based approach of learning something from someone that's better than you to become better and only be focused on real information that work in a practical field. So step by step, I became better and better and better. Now, like 17 years later, I'm a black belt. I have my own gym. I train professional fighters with the world's best fighters of the world. I'm happy to do that. But not only that, when I became better and better, I started to fall in love with human psychology. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to adapt the systematic approach of fighting to the systematic approach of psychology. So I wanted to find out not only to be stronger when it comes to humans, like which systems work to defend yourself or kill somebody in a few seconds. I also wanted to know how to approach women, how to have a good relationship, how to be good with men and women when it comes to communication and psychology. How are we wired? So I approached psychology from a fighting perspective. So I only looked for practical knowledge that works. And what I did was I combined those two. And when I was ready to do that, I was able to coach it and teach it. So from then on, this is like 13 years ago, I was a coach for mind and body. So like for mindset and psychology stuff, when it comes to the systems of human psychology, how we are wired, and to the body part. So how the systems of our body work, especially when it comes to fighting. After many years, I became more mature, and as life has its rhythms, I more and more came into situations of struggle and problems and trauma and inner child work pops up, and my business was bigger, and COVID came, and everything became more and more difficult for me. So I had my rock bottom again. And when I got to the field where my inner wounds that I haven't addressed came out of my life, out into my life, and like a virus detected everything or defected everything, I had to be the student again. And then I went into the spiritual part. So I started to look for the same like systematic approach on how to heal inner wounds and find out why we are wired like we wired when it comes to triggers and trauma and relationship problems that are a little bit bigger than just how to connect to a woman, but also how to have deeper relationships. And psychedelics helped a lot with that. So after being a student again and learned that, I also extended my arsenal with psychedelics and spirituality. So what I do now is I still do the same, but I do it on a mental, physical, and spiritual field. And depend on the level of the guys that I'm teaching, I'm choosing the right weapon on how to help the guy to come to his goals.
Amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, I think you could help me a lot with that spiritual side, guide me through some of the psychedelics because I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I can see where that would
Mhm.
make a big difference
Yeah,
in what I do.
yeah.
And obviously with fighting, it's a lot more serious than pickleball. I know you talked a lot about
Mhm.
playing games. Well,
Yeah,
pickleball to me is
I
a
was in
game.
NYC. Sorry for interrupting. I've been in NYC a few months ago, and I
Yeah,
think I saw pickleball there on the in the
in the
Central
park.
Park. Is it right?
Oh yeah, they just built a whole
Is
bunch.
that
Yeah, City
pickleball?
Pickle.
Is that pickleball?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
what is that?
It's
I don't know what
it's
it is.
it's a new American sport that is getting crazy over here. We're trying to spread it overseas a little bit more. They just actually had the English Open in London this past weekend. They had over 2,000 players, largest tournament in Europe so far.
Great,
We'll,
great,
we'll
great.
have to
So
we'll have
this,
to meet up in play sometime. Go check it out. I don't know where they play in Germany, but it's growing. But yeah, fighting's a lot more serious.
I
So
would
for
love to. I
me
would
with
love to.
pickleball, I can see how the psychology behind it, right? Because you see how people act or behave when they're
Mhm,
competing, as opposed to off court. They're two totally different people. So you always try to figure out what is that triggering them in competition. Why are they taking it so seriously? Why do they treat their partners a certain way? Or why are people so much more difficult? Or why is it so much more difficult for people to play with their spouses or their partner as opposed to a stranger? So I always like diving into that psychological approach. And what really
mhm.
fascinated me with what you were talking about was the systems approach with the high learning versus low learning. Does that ring a bell? That played a big factor in what I was talking about because with pickleball, like I said, it's such a game, but when
Mhm.
it becomes your job, your career, it becomes serious, and finding a way to balance those can be really difficult for a lot of people. So, like I said, I listen to your TED
Mhm.
talk, but for most people listening, could you just give kind of a brief outline on that PHS system so everyone knows?
Yeah, I would love to. So it's very important if you want to be good at something or want to be generalized good. So good in many topics and use the benefits of mastery from one topic for the other topics to follow the rules of PHS. That means if you search for a game in life, I think the world is full of systems, like everything is a system. I think you can summarize the world in 0 and 1 and yin and yang and up and down and black and white. So the better you are in leveraging the specific leverage space in your wherever you are, like sport or problem that you have, the better you can hit that sweet spot of leveraging it, the more successful you can be. So if you're good at playing games and problem solving all the time, you will become more successful in life because you will aim for that same sweet spot in every other dimension too. So if you're like good in, let's say, pickleball, and you found out the leverages and how to do the right thing and not to do the wrong thing, you will be more efficient, right? You will be better with using less resources than other ones. So if you're constantly playing games and become good at them, and leverage and leverage and leverage and leverage and start a new project, let's say a podcast, I think you also have the same approach to your podcast that you had to the pickle game part. So with that being said, without you having the pickleball part in the background, maybe it would be more difficult for you to lead a team or do your stuff successfully, because pickleball already told you or showed you something of how to work with struggles, how to work with falling down, how to listen to mentors, and how to level up in the game, like Super Mario. So a game should have this is the system of the formula of pH and S. If you would play a game that is not pH and S, I would assume that you would not generalize it on other topics that good. If you have a game that is high on pH and S, you can generalize it on other topics in life. And this is why I was able to generalize mental, physical, and spiritual. P stands for playful. So a game or something that you do needs to be playful. That means there has to be like a game in it. There needs to be something that has an playful playful character to it. So if we watch human history, there always have been games. There always have been searching for X, searching for leverage effects, looking for the solution to become better and level up. And even if there's no necessity like survival necessity, we also did play games because humans love games, and this is the way we learn. So if one game you play or one whatever thing you do, one project is playful, it's very more it's more common that you will play it through the end to become like a black belt or a master or whatever.
You stick
If
with
it's
it. You
not so
follow through
playful,
with it.
if
Mhm.
you stick with it, exactly. So it's more because it's our nature to love games, but it's not enough. So if you have a project that's playfully but doesn't involve H and S, not only will you maybe not stick to it, maybe you will stick to it, maybe you will bring it to the end, but still it's not as good to generalize it on other topics of life because H and S is missing. So what is H? H is holistic. We are humans, so we are a whole intelligence. Our mind and body is connected. Actually, there is no mind and body because we don't know where the mind starts and the mind stops. It's only a concept. It's one. Only our ego separates it, but it's one. So if you isolate one of those two parts, you're isolating yourself because your subconscious or your intelligence as a whole wants to play the game and solve problems. For example, if I go to the fighting gym and go on the mats and do some, let's say, high level sparring with black belts, and I go on the mat, my mind or whatever my mind level is thinking of the upcoming challenge with another black belt. This is not the way how I will win or lose the fight. My body is also playing a huge role. So if I go on the map and have a fight with the opponent or with my training partner, my body at some place or at some stage will come into the play as well. So my body is solving problems. The intelligence of my body is looking for breath or looking for a movement. So I'm moving my body automatically without even thinking about what to do. This is because my body, my holistic intelligence, adapted to that game, let's say, of fighting, or let's say pickleball. So if a system that you're approaching is playfully and holistic, then you're very, very good at learning more and getting more intelligent and more successful because you're not limited. Because as I said, mind and body are connected, they're one. So if you're only doing a game that is playfully but not holistic and it's only in the mind, you're missing a big part of your human potential. Because it's maybe you can relate to that, because if your body sometimes is on the game and it's doing stuff that you never really think of.
You find
Yeah,
that flow state. Yeah, you gotta turn your brain off because you get in your own way a lot
exactly,
of times. You overthink things,
exactly.
and that's when you get the yips and, oh, I know
Yeah,
what that's like.
yeah, yeah. If there's a system, whatever it is, it can be making love with your partner, it can be whatever, where your body is involved, then you're opening a whole new door as a human to have better learning effects in life. So this is the holistic part. So if a system is playfully and holistic, you will not only be good at sticking to it, you will stick to it, become better, and generalize it on other topics of life too. And the last part is seriousness. If there is a game that is holistic, and there's a game that's playful, but there's not some aspect of seriousness to it, we don't really have the necessity to play it through, because at some time we will throw it away or whatever. And therefore there are some for example, there are championships, or in fighting there's someone that wants to
Yeah.
knock you out.
Consequences. Yeah.
Consequences, exactly. In dating, there is a consequence too. Dating, like seduction, like male female dynamics, also one of the topics I love to teach and will love to learn from. It's also a game. Seduction is a game, yin and yang. um, Male and female, it's a game. And as well, it's very, very holistic, because you're not only chatting and dating and texting online. Somehow your body will get involved. You feel anxiety as a man to approach her, for example, and have to overcome that approaching anxiety. A woman has an anxiety to be sure if she can trust that man, so she has to holistically find reasons to trust that man. So it's also holistic, and it's serious, because it's like dating. You can sleep with someone, you can marry someone, you can heighten your body count. I don't know. There's a serious aspect to that. And everything that is playful, holistic, and serious has the most learning effects on us. Because, and this is why the school system in many countries sucks, because it's not holistic many times, not always, but many times. And also, we don't understand the serious aspect of it. It's not enough that the school says school is serious. It's not enough. We have to understand it. And you don't need to tell me why MMA is serious. But like old school fighting stuff, like those old styles that are sorted out now, they also haven't been understood. I mean, serious. There have been a sensei showing some techniques that we don't understand. So this is why the people don't stick to it and change to MMA. Yeah.
Sure.
PHF.
And we can learn all these different things. Obviously, past experiences you kind of take from and you kind of build on them. But for a lot of these people who maybe don't or haven't had those kind of experiences, like in high level sports and things where you have to adapt and learn, I mean, these are things that people can learn and improve on over time, right?
Exactly. So do you talk about someone starting a new system, or
Yeah,
if someone
sure.
is not even in one game?
Yeah. So, for example, I know in pickleball, people play 4 or 5 hours every day. They're obsessed, and I think a lot of people go through that phase with a new hobby or a new career, or something that they're very interested in, they're excited about. There's that
Yeah.
obsession where I think that's where the playful aspect comes in, because people are curious, they're creative, they're trying new things, and there's not really as much of that serious aspect of it because it's okay to try and fail. They're just
Got
enjoying
you.
the process, enjoying being a part of it. And then for me personally, throughout my career, I've actually retired and came back to pickleball because I think
Okay.
I got to that point where I was essentially burnt out. It was almost too serious. It wasn't fun anymore. I wasn't getting
Mhm.
creative. I wasn't trying new things, and I essentially kind of got boring after a while. And then something changed
Yeah.
in me. I took some time off and realized
Got
kind
you.
of what I enjoyed the most about it was that playfulness about it. And
Yeah.
now I'm trying, working on new shots, trying to get better every day. And now I had that motivation to kind of keep pushing on.
Yeah.
So that for a lot of people, they struggle finding that.
Yeah.
So I think that
Yeah.
having that balance is extremely important.
Yeah, of course. And I think the seriousness part shouldn't be missed here, because if you do fighting, for example, and you fight and you train, you become better. At some point, you have to fight another man or woman to show that you are getting better. And I love the black belt system in this scenario. So let's say you have white, you have blue, you have purple, you
Mhm.
have brown, you have black. And let's say you are becoming a blue belt after 3 years or whatever. And you don't go to training anymore. And after a few years or months, whatever, you come back to training and they all kick your ass. This is the serious part of it. If you would come back to training 6 years later and still get the feedback on the mat that you are good, then this is not a high game, in my opinion. This
Right.
is a
Well,
game
my
with a
my
high
first
game.
tournament back after a break, I got my butt kicked, and it kind of got me motivated to train harder.
That's the
Um,
serious part I'm talking about. Yeah,
yeah,
this
what
is
is
how I separate
ho
high games from low games.
and how would you define the difference between a high game and a low game for most
So
people who
let's
haven't heard your
yeah,
talk?
a good question. Let's say there's someone, let's say fighting, for example. I go to the mats, I come back, I don't train. I have a girlfriend, I become fat, I don't train. Just an example. Um, I go
Hypothetical.
home, I play I play PlayStation, and every guy I meet, I tell them I have fought before. And yeah, no, they don't say I'm a fighter before. I'm a fighter. Many of my students do that shit. So yeah, I'm a fighter. I do train. I'm a fighter, and they have a girlfriend, do their PlayStation stuff, go out, drink beer, say I'm a fighter, and after a few months, they go back to training and they all kick their ass. So after a while, their ego identification of I'm a fighter isn't stable anymore. So the high game is a self-regulating system. So what the high game does is you still have to do the work to strengthen your blue belt, to eventually become a purple belt or to become a brown belt or even become a black belt, you not only have to work yourself through that, you also have to maintain the belt. And this is where a worth system comes into play. A game cannot be a high game if you say, hey, for example, there are many people texting me and asking me, is this a high game? Is this a high game? Let's say, I don't know what the English word is. What is it
So
on the
it's any activity to you is considered
let's
a
say,
game.
what is it called that you put on your postcard? Briefmarke.
Post, yes, stamp.
You know, when you pay like $1 or something and you put it in,
Yeah.
there are people collecting that, right?
The
So, and
collecting stamps. Yeah.
collecting stamps, yes. And I'm sure that this is very intelligent, and I'm sure that this is maybe more complex and more whatever in depth to it than possibly fighting. I don't know. But is it a high game? No, it isn't. Because if you're missing out on it 10 years and come back and you're still the king, then there is something that is not so serious about it, in my opinion. It's not so challenging. And it's not holistic, I think. You only have to do this. And maybe it's playfully, but it's only P, it's not H and S. So it's a low game. It's something you can do, and maybe you will become, if you do a podcast as a professional stamper, whatever you call that guy, as a professional message stumper, you start a podcast. Maybe you cannot rule the team because at some point you're not focused enough because you take too much time for everything,
Okay.
because you're not serious enough, and maybe your body isn't productive enough. But a holistic game, a high game, is holistic. So you have to take care of your body. If you're a leader that is doing something that is P, H, and S, and you know your body, you also know your body of your coworkers. You also know the body of your spouse. You also know the body of everyone around them. You know how to lead a team and lead them healthy. You also know how to have borders and boundaries, because boundaries are very important to have seriousness. So if there isn't something with good borders, like a good Mario game with good levels, and it's not serious enough for us to be happy to win that level, we will eventually let it fall. We don't want to continue that game. We don't want to stick to it. So if you do a game that is not serious and you still love it and say, but this is my high game, in my concept and theory, it isn't a high game if it's not serious. If you don't have to put in the work and maintain it like a black belt, you will lose it. And this is exactly, by the way, what happened to karate and taekwondo and stuff. The black belts lost their worth. Like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu or luta livre black belt, there's still dimensions that the black belt that I got. If you got this black belt not yet, maybe in the future, but now a black belt in grappling, in jiu-jitsu or luta livre is high level, it's status. But 50 years ago, taekwondo and karate was like that. Now it isn't like that anymore. Some people get it after 5-6 years that are 12 years old. I don't know, because it's not. They lost their seriousness because it was wishy-washy, McDojo. Everyone got a black belt, so it lost the high game character.
They didn't keep raising that bar.
Exactly. So it lost the serious aspect of it. It's holistic a little bit, maybe the traditional, without bashing that. Taekwondo, I love it. Karate, I love it. But I talk about the whole system from it. So the high level system needs to have a intelligence behind it, or people that are able to keep it on a high standard. So if I go around the world and I say, hey, I'm a black belt, or let's say I'm a best-selling author or a TEDx speaker, and those games lose the boundaries of the limit, then the worth will go down, like inflation, for example.
Sure.
So a low game is something that is playfully but not holistic and not serious, or is something that is serious. Let's say you're working, maybe it's serious, like you're working for the state or something, I don't know, but it's not holistic and it's not playful. Let's say you're the guy that takes the taxes from people. I don't know if this is a high game, but it's a game.
Yeah. Okay, and it's fair to have some low games, as hobbies or what, but just understand that there's so much more value in a high game.
100% more efficient. You can generalize it. So in my opinion, it's like this: if you're someone that is a leader, or someone that is wants to hire people in your team, and you see that guy is in his CV or whatever is doing a high game in his life, then you're like, okay, I want that guy in my team. And if someone says, but he hasn't done an academic grade, or he is not from the university or whatever, you're like, all right, got you, but he's a black belt. but he is a professional whatever player, but he did this and this, but he programmed this and this and that. But if there's written that he's stamping, I don't know what you call them, then maybe this is not so attractive. It's human nature to respect people that evolved in a high game and get the mastery in it.
Regardless the field, just understanding the work and dedication and learning that they've had to go through in that field,
Yeah,
it's gonna relate to whatever else they do.
exactly.
And
Zero
and
and
that's
one.
that's why having things like that at younger ages is so important. Like you said, it just builds that
Exactly.
experience for these
Exactly.
kids moving on. So I mean, that's one of the reasons why I think just sports in general are so great for kids. Even if they don't
100%.
stick with it forever, just all the things you have to learn how to adapt and figure things out. Aside from just like the health aspect of it, is extremely
100%.
important.
100%.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
seeing
Like,
we're
let's
seeing
say
a
you
lot
have
of we're seeing a lot of kids playing pickleball nowadays. When I started,
okay.
it was more for seniors, adults. Now a lot of kids are playing and growing up playing, and actually some of the
Love
best
it.
players in the world are pickleball specific athletes. They don't play any other sports, just pickleball. And it's
This
wild
is
that even a silly sport like that can be so intricate, and in all those different ways. I mean, the mental toughness, the strategy, all those things. It just helps figure things out, and you take all those skills from sports and you can attribute that to everything else in life. And
love
that's
it.
that's kind of part of this podcast, is trying to open people's minds on things like that, and how
Love it.
impactful sports can be for everyone else. Whether you're good
Yeah.
at it or not, you learn a lot from it.
Yeah. This is experience, isn't it? Experience is what you get out of situations. And if it's a high game, it's a very, very resourceful experience package you get, and generalize it on other topics of your life.
Yeah, love it. Hey, so if let's say you're going into a fight, what are some of the priorities that you look for? What are some things that you're going through your mind leading up to a fight? Some things that you focus on, as in preparation, mentally.
Yeah.
What goes into that? If you can name 3 to 5 really
Depends.
important things.
So it depends on what perspective you look. If I look as a coach, and let's say there's a student of mine having a fight, I think number one is there should be something that you always can rely on, that you know you can do good and better than your opponent. Some style you come from, let's say your takedowns are brilliant. Let's say your condition is brilliant. Let's say your whatever is brilliant. There should be something that is your base that you can always rely on when you get into survival mode. Because in
Hmm.
fighting, there's like a survival mode. There's like at some time your body can go into a situation where it's so much stress that you cannot rely on the techniques you just learned, or that you um, can do rationally if your mind is not in survival or your nervous system isn't in survival mode.
It's just all
So if
muscle memory. Just
exactly,
you're
yes,
reacting. Yeah.
so there should be that one thing. So what I would suggest people to do, or fighters to do, is to know that one thing and have that one thing. If there's a fighter saying, hey, I have a fight coming out and I don't know that one thing of him, it can be a frame though. It doesn't have to be like one kick or one takedown. It can be a
Mhm.
frame. Let's say Khabib is in pressuring and aggressive, going forward, grappling and takedowns and going and going and going. This is a frame. This is a style. This is there. Whatever happens, that's there. And you should have that and rely on that. Why is that? Because if you have that, you have inner stability. You have something that you can always rely on, and that is unshakable when it comes to confidence. That doesn't mean that if it's impossible to win if someone else is having the same attributes, but still he's good in something else than you, and you will be maybe better in something different. So the next thing is you should be able to analyze. So the second thing is you should analyze and have a strategic approach to your opponent. You should know what he is good at, what he's bad at, and especially what is his main thing that he is doing. So what is the part of him that he's very good at? What is he always doing? What is the thing that he can rely on? And what is, and that's the next thing, let's say part three, what is the counter system of his system? Let's say you're someone that is doing style X and he's doing it all the way. You know that there's a counter style to that. You should know your counter style and prepare for that, because you know he's doing that. And you should know the counter style of your opponent. And then you should make a plan with all of your coaches, with your striking coach, your grappling coach, your nutrition coach, your whatever coach, and find the intelligent approach on how to target this opponent. So if there's a fighter going to a fight, know what he is good at, but especially know what the other one could be good at to counterattack your system, and you also know his system and have counterattacks for his systems. This will be very interesting. So now the rest comes to conditioning and the counter techniques and the game plan and whatever your head coaches and your team is planning for you to do. So then it comes to nutrition and techniques and whatever comes next, and of course the mindset. The body follows the mind. So, but it depends on the level. If you're very high level, then you have a mindset coach, hopefully, that is taking care of your mind and knows what are the points that should not be triggered, or if they get triggered, what you should do to get out of that state to feel inner stability again.
I
I'm not sure
love
if that
hearing
applies.
that. I love hearing that from you because like I said, it's so relatable even to a silly sport like pickleball. Because when I go into a match, there's so many different styles and ways of playing the game, and you have to figure out like what are your opponents good at, and how do we avoid their strengths, and can I use my strengths as much as possible, and then finding weaknesses. And now a lot of the
Yeah,
players I play against don't have a lot of weaknesses, but they
yeah,
definitely have some strengths. They might have, a mean forehand, or they might be able to reach and take balls out of the air really well. So
yeah,
I've learned that you have to adapt and play differently depending on your opponents. So different
yeah,
matches look very different. Some are very fast paced and some are very
yeah,
slow and methodical.
yeah.
And
It's
then
the
you have
art.
to analyze throughout the match, which player, what do they like to do, finding patterns, how to counter it. And then so it's this, tug of war. And so I love being able to relate pickleball to these other sports because it's so similar. But I loved hearing that from you. And yeah, it's the strategy aspect first. Figuring out or finding your comfort zone.
Yeah, on a high level, it's
Y-
important. On a high
Yeah,
level, that's very important.
find your
Yeah,
comfort zone. Find what you're good at. Try to stick with it. Analyze what your opponents are doing. Find a strategy, and then comes in the conditioning and the physical aspect of it. But what I've realized with my experience in sports is that mental side is so much more important than the
yeah,
physical usually,
yeah,
unless you have two equal players, strategically and skill wise. Then it comes down to the physical aspect of it. But most
yeah.
people, at least throughout my career, I've been able to win most of my matches just by playing chess and not necessarily being bigger, stronger, faster than who I'm playing
Gotcha,
against.
gotcha. Yeah,
And I'm kind of a little guy,
mind
so I've
games,
had to figure it out.
psychology.
I'd be
Gotcha,
a
gotcha, gotcha.
bantamweight kind of guy.
I got you.
So
You should do it. You will love it. Trust me on that.
I
It's
think
a
I
high
would.
game, so you can eventually there will be a time where you would generalize, copy the resources you gained from pickleball to, let's
Sure.
say, grappling. I would recommend you to start grappling, what the same thing that I did, because then you can do 100% sparring without damage. That's a great thing about jiu-jitsu or luta livre or grappling, or wrestling. If you grapple, you can fight realistically 100% without getting injured. Like most of time, sometimes things can happen. But if
Sure.
you do like striking, there can be problems. That's why you need
Sure.
safety things.
Amazing. I would love to have you as my coach. This is a pleasure. It was so nice to
Yeah.
meet you. Best-selling author. What's the name of your book again?
My name is the book is I don't know what it is in English. It's in German. It's Erfolg aus Prinzip. It's success on principle. I don't know if I translated it right, but
Oh,
hopefully will be translated internationally the next time. So I will have talks about that, and if not, people can internationally contact me for coachings or speakings or whatever, and I want to go globally with that.
that would be awesome. Yeah, everyone go give Adrian a follow. Check out his stuff, especially his TED Talk. It's in English. You'd really enjoy it. Dude, thanks for staying up for us. I really appreciate meeting you. We'll stay in touch.